Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to be looking at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Knightfall Nightwing. This is Nightwing as he appeared in the 90s. He's got the longer hair, he's got the yellow sort of bird thing across his chest or shoulder area. I pre-ordered this guy for the McFarlane toy store, and it finally arrived today. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts, McFarlane Toys, ages 12 plus, DC Multiverse Nightwing. Here he is in the package. Looks like he has 6 hands, a Nightwing Batarang, collector's card, and display stand. One side of the package, Nightwing from Batman Knightfall. Other side, Nightwing. At the bottom, here's his barcode in case that helps anybody. And on the back side, here's Nightwing posed up on the side of a building. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And of course, I did get 2 of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, the other one to keep unopened in my complete Batman-related unopened action figure collection. Alright, now that this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He comes with 4 alternate hands, totaling 6 interchangeable hands, a display stand, and a collector's card. Now, he does come with this Nightwing Batarang thing, but it's permanently attached to his hand, and that sucks. What kind of garbage is that? Before I take a look at the accessories, let's talk about the figure. So this is Nightwing from the 90s, specifically from Knightfall, but he looked like this for quite a while. When Robin first left the nest, he was still Robin for a while, but then it became Nightwing, and he was wearing that sort of disco suit, and he's upgraded many times over the years. He looked a lot more serious at this point, and was working with the Bat family a little bit more. The figure itself looks pretty good. It's done on the Blue Beetle Booster Gold body, and it's actually pretty appropriate for Nightwing, much more so than the John Kemp body was. But that yellow sort of bird thing across his chest, I really wish that was a separate sculpted piece, even if it was just glued or permanently attached on top. Painting it just doesn't do it justice, and the butterfly joint completely interrupts it and looks hideous. Still, I do think the figure looks good, so let's take a look. Start with his face here. He's got the domino mask, which is in the shape of sort of a Batman symbol, and I've always liked that. He doesn't exactly look like a Batman alley, but at the same time, there are a ton of hints all over him. He's got the long ponytail. Nightwing had long hair for a very long period of time. But you can see this thing is interrupted, and it just looks so bad like that. They should have put something on top to give it a 3D sort of look to it. Now this thing here would allow him to glide. He'd be able to stretch out his hands and have the sort of almost Spider-Man-esque type stuff under his arms, but not this guy. It's just a design on his outfit. As we go further down, he has another sort of Batman type symbol on his belt. That's the Nightwing symbol, sort of based off the Bat symbol, but disconnected at the same time. He's got a utility belt with plenty of pouches. He has this Nightwing ring stuck in his fingertips, and that just sucks. I can't stand that. Like I said, the Blue Beetle Booster Gold body, you can see the old boots sculpted, and they just simply ignored it and painted around them. They could have given him some different boots. They've done it with Flash, for example, and other figures on the Blue Beetle body. That is disappointing and lazy. But like I said, I still like the way this figure looks. I really enjoyed Nightwing when he looked this way. I really enjoyed comics in the 90s. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt, which I think is pretty good. I love that domino mask. And here's the figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's check out his accessories. Let's start off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand. Typical McFarlane display stand. It's a black perfect circle. It's very thin, very basic. Now let's look at his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Nightwing wearing that suit. You can see how that sort of yellow thing across his chest should be on top of his outfit. And you can see how it sort of extends from his armpits, kind of Spider-Man-esque, and allows him to glide. They could have handled that a lot better. Nightwing from Batman Knightfall. Funny thing is, this image is not from Knightfall, but it's from a similar era. On the back side, there is a description. If you want to read that, pause now. His collector's card is a replica of Nightwing number 1 from 1995. Not from Knightfall, but it's from a similar time period. And it just so happens, I have the issue right here. Now let's look at his hands. He has a total of 6 of them, 3 left hands and 3 right hands. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. Then, with his next pair of hands, this is a pair of gripping hands. And then his last pair of hands, his right hand is holding his sort of Nightwing orang, and his left hand is totally open. And I appreciate getting 6 hands for this figure, but I don't appreciate the Nightwing Batarang thing stuck into his hand. It's permanently sculpted and is actually part of the hand. So even if I wanted to rip it out, it would look hideous and awful. It would not be a clean sculpt. It would not be a fully painted accessory. And I don't know, maybe it's not a big deal to everyone out there, but I was really excited for this Nightwing Batarang. I was going to give it to my other Nightwing figures. It's just bothering the hell out of me. I always thought his accessory was pretty cool in the comics. Robin had his own sort of unique Batarang. It was an R-shaped thing. It would come out of his chest. Nightwing had his own sort of unique Batarangs. It looked like this, had the Nightwing logo on them. Batman had his own unique Batarangs, etc., etc. The DC Direct figure actually came with a separate Nightwing Batarang. And I really appreciate that, as I'm sure you've gathered by now. This is how it should have been done. Just a separate disc piece here. This one is kind of hollow. The paint job is fantastic. So at least I already have one, but I was really hoping to have 2. And speaking of having 2, I also use these yellow discs that came with some Robin figure. Maybe the Young Justice Robin as Nightwing Batarangs. Here's Nightwing posed up, holding that permanently attached Nightwing Batarang. It actually looks okay, and they put it in his hand properly to get a good pose. But I still really don't like the fact they wouldn't do it this way. And here's Nightwing in pretty much that exact same pose, holding the DC Direct Nightwing Batarang with his gripping hand. For those of you that say, oh, it's too small for him to hold it, not at all. Look at this. This is how it should have been done. Here's this Nightwing, holding a couple of previous released McFarlane Nightwing's batons. In case you're wondering how they fit in his hand, they fit just fine. Now let's quickly recap the flaws about this guy. And don't misunderstand me, I like the figure. I think he looks pretty good, but there are just a few simple things that would have really made him a lot better. First of all, no surprise I'm sure at this point, but his Nightwing orang should have been a separate piece. That just bothers me so much. I do not like when they give us hands that have pre-posed and permanently attached weapons into there. I like to take them out and add them to my bat armory. And I don't have a lot of Nightwing specific weapons. I mean, I got plenty of batons and staffs, but the Nightwing orang was something I was really looking forward to, and they messed that up pretty bad. In addition to that, the thing on his chest, they messed that up even worse. I mean, sure, it looks okay, but it could have looked a lot better. It needs to have some sort of sculpting, bare minimum, even if they weren't going to add a separate piece. It's just very bland. It looks like it's just a logo painted onto him, and that's not what this was. It was an extra piece that was added on, and he could kind of stretch out his arms and glide. It would look almost like webbing under his arms. This does not. It just literally looks like it's a sort of logo painted on top of his outfit. Kenner back in the 90s made a Nightwing in the Legends of the Dark Knight line, and they made a separate piece. McFarlane damn sure could have. I don't care if it would have hindered the articulation a little bit. There's definitely a way they could have handled that and got away with it and made it a whole lot better. That bothered me since day one, and it bothers me just as much up front in person. Now the last thing is going to be the Blue Beetle body. Now it's actually a decent body for this guy. I never liked the fact that the abs were on top, but to tell you the truth, I didn't even really notice on this guy until just now when I started examining it. But the boots, I mean, really? Look at that sculpting line. These are just regular flat boots. But no, his boots kind of go up and down, and they decided to just paint it and leave the sculpting line there. You're telling me McFarlane could have paid some guy to sand that down and smooth that out before they cranked it through the assembly line? You're telling me they couldn't have given him different boots like they did to Flash and some other characters? So that frustrates me because it is lazy, and I don't mind reuse. This is actually good reuse, but this sort of stuff is annoying. They've done this boot thing so many times with this body and with other bodies as well. Rebirth Superman. Now I wanted to check out the differences between this Knightfall Nightwing and the Blue Beetle. They use the same base body, and there are some differences, so let's take a look. Obviously, their heads are totally different. The torso is completely the same. Shoulders, arms, down to the hands are even the same. Of course, he has different hands, but he also has fisted hands like his. These wrists have always looked bad. You have to have them into a very certain pose for them to look good. Right now, you can kind of see how it's sort of split, looks bad. Bam, like that, it looks good. But it can look bad very easily. And it has pins on one side, so you want to keep those on the inside. But I feel like it just doesn't look smooth unless it's literally like this. Any other pose looks just funky as heck. Going further down, stomach is the same. The diaper piece is different. And I like the symbol, and I like the belt on here quite a bit. The legs are the same. And a huge complaint is this boot. You can see it was designed for the original Blue Beetle figure that has a regular type boot like this. Just a regular, standard, sort of mid-calf cut boot. And Nightwing has the same cut that looks ridiculous on this guy. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at the figure and its accessories, now for his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing right at 7 inches tall, which can translate to just under 18 centimeters. And now for his articulation. Starting with his head. Of course, it can rotate from side to side. You can look up about that far, down pretty good amount. Notice the ponytail when he looks up. It does a really good job of not getting in the way. It's flexible, it's soft. Head, you can tilt from one side to the other. Shoulders on a ball joint goes out a little bit more than 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He does have this butterfly joint between shoulder and chest area, increasing the range of motion and covering the large gap that would be there. And just breaking up this yellow thing looks so bad. Bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows below that. His wrist, it can rotate and it's going to be hinged as well. His torso, he's got a ball joint, rotate around, forward and back. Another one in his waist, rotate around, forward and back. Between the two, pretty good range of motion in his torso area. I get more out of the torso than the waist on this guy. Legs, complete to splits, McFarlane style hip joints. Rotation, it's decent on this guy. His legs go forward all the way. Back not much. Double jointed knees. And then his ankle. Forward and back. Rotate. Tilt. Rock. And of course, toe articulation. Here's Nightwing, posed up on a Gotham rooftop, surrounded by gargoyles. And here's a look at the Knightfall Batman, with the Tim Drake Robin and the Knightfall Nightwing on a rooftop of Gotham. Nice set of 90s Bat Family characters. Although I complain about its size a lot, I think the Hush Batman scales up a little better with the Tim Drake Robin and the Knightfall Nightwing. Batman should be a little bigger than his sidekicks, especially the younger ones. And here's a look at Nightwing hanging out of a fire escape on the side of a building. Now let's check him out. Next to some other Nightwing figures. Starting off with some other McFarlane, Nightwing, and Dick Grayson figures. Here he is, next to the Rebirth Nightwing. This is the first wave of McFarlane figures, and is still probably my favorite McFarlane Nightwing to date. Then, next to the Gotham Knights Nightwing, which is a decent figure, but a little bit too stylized to the video game. And now, next to the Titans Nightwing, which is on the John Kent body, which I think is a little bit too small for Nightwing. Here are all the Nightwing figures McFarlane has made in their DC Multiverse line. There are a total of 7 of them, 4 of which use the Rebirth body. And here would be all of the McFarlane DC Multiverse Dick Grayson figures, both as Robin and as Nightwing. Rumor is they're going to be doing a Dick Grayson as Batman in the near future. Look for that to be getting revealed soon. McFarlane also made a Knightfall Nightwing in their smaller Superpowers line. DC Direct also made a Nightwing in the Knightfall line, and it looks damn good. They executed the yellow thing on his chest so much better than McFarlane. McFarlane figure is good, but it definitely has some flaws. Hell, look at DC Direct's boot cut. Sculpted properly. Here he is, with all of my different DC Direct and Nightwing figures. There are, I believe, 2 that I'm missing. Number 1 is Nightwing in his disco suit, and number 2 is a slight repaint of the Hush Nightwing. And here he is, next to all of my Mattel Nightwing figures. And now, with a Mafex Nightwing figure. And finally, here he is, next to a Dick Grayson in civilian attire custom I made a long time ago. These are all the McFarlane figures specifically labeled Nightfall. We have Batman, Nightwing, Azrael, and Catwoman. And I would welcome any other characters they want to give us from Nightfall. Both Batman and Catwoman had variants, although the Grey Catwoman is not accurate to anything in Nightfall. Still a cool figure. Although not technically part of the Nightfall line, the Tim Drake Robin and Bane fit in pretty nicely. Tim Drake wore the exact same costume in Nightfall, and Bane is actually from the Rebirth comics, but he's not too far off. Batman comics in the 90s. Nightwing here is done on the Blue Beetle Booster Gold body. I call it that because this body was first introduced in the 2-pack with these guys. And, you know, it works for a blank body for a lot of different characters. I think it works good for this Nightwing. Just some slight alterations like the boots and the chest thing would have made this guy an almost perfect figure. This body has now been used a total of 10 times in the McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Like I said, it's a good body. I think it was only misused with Captain Atom, who should have been a little bit of a bigger character. And if only they would do some slight alterations. Look at the boots on the Flash. They can definitely do different boots if they want to. Should have been done. Booster Gold, Nightwing, and Animal Man. The next figure to use this body is going to be the Crisis on Infinite Earths Kid Flash. And it looks like maybe Psycho Pirate is using part of the body, but definitely not the top part with the weird abs sticking out. That is one thing that does bother me about this body. If you don't have the torso lined up perfectly, it looks weird because the 2 abs are on the top half of the torso and the other ones are on the stomach. Now let's check them out. Next is some other recent release McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here's the Knightfall Nightwing next to the DC Classics Smiling Superman. Here's Nightwing next to the Bizarro and Bat-Bizarro 2-pack. And here he is next to a couple of recent Entertainment Earth Gold Label exclusive Blacklight figures. Then, next to some recent McFarlane Toy Store exclusive Gold Label figures, we have the sketch version of the Hazmat Suit Batman and Black Manta, the Deadly Duo Joker, and the Patina variant of Merciless. And now, next to both the regular and the Platinum Chase variants of Steel, here's Nightwing next to some recent Big Bad Toy Store exclusive Gold Label figures. We have the black and white accent, Red Hood, Aquaman, and Joker. And here he is, next to Lobo. This is the Amazon exclusive version with the deluxe Space Hog set. Then, next to some recent Target exclusive Joker Eyes stuff. And now, with some recent Target exclusive Gold Label figures, Animal Man, Red Tornado, Midnighter, and Wave Rider. Here's Nightwing, next to some recent Walmart exclusive Gold Label figures, Black Lightning, Owlman, and the Vampire Damian Wayne and Hal Jordan. And here he is, next to both the regular and Platinum Chase variants of McFarlane's Collector's Edition Wonder Woman. Then, next to the McFarlane Collector's Edition Wave 3, both the regular and Platinum Chase variants of Captain Carrot, Superman, and Batman as Green Lantern. And now, next to the Batman and Robin movie wave, Collector Build and Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze. And here he is, next to the Target exclusive Flashpoint wave, Collector Build Cyborg. Then, next to the Injustice 2 Superman and both versions of Brainiac. And finally, next to the Dark Knights of Steel Batman and both versions of the Jim Gordon Batman. Now let's check them out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise. In case you don't know which lines you can mix them with, since he's a McFarlane toy, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work way smaller. But first, let's check them out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. And now, next to some Jakks-specific wrestling figures, and some DST or Diamond Select toys, here's Nightwing, next to my wife's glasses. And here he is, next to some DC Direct, and some NECA figures. Then, with both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures. And now, with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures. Next, with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends. And finally, next to some SH Figure Arts and some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, this Nightwing figure is good, but he's not without his flaws. I would say it's probably the best Nightwing head sculpt they've made so far. I really like this particular look of Nightwing. I was really into reading the comics in the 90s, etc., etc. I don't even mind the Blue Beetle body reuse. I think it's quite appropriate, proportion-wise, for Nightwing. But I do mind the laziness on the boots. I do mind the quality of the wrists. I do mind that yellow thing across his chest was handled so poorly. And I really don't like the fact that his Nightwing Batarang was permanently attached to his hand. Now that just really pissed me off. That being said, I still like the figure. I still think he looks really good with the Tim Drake Robin and the Nightfall Batman and Bane and all those guys. He's a great addition to the collection, and I hope they expand on this 90s era Bat family. If I were to rate this guy, it's a rough one. I probably should give him a 6 out of 7. I want to give him a 7 out of 10, but I'm going to give him a 6.5 out of 10. The figure looks good, and I'm really happy to have him, but there are just some really, really easy things they could have done to make him a lot better. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.